IVC, Dale Gateful 33 here to do well, this is a contest entry, but not particularly want to be entered in the contest. I'm doing it as a sort of bit of a thread response. There's been quite a few of these going around, really interesting. So this is something put out by TKR Video Central, looking for us to show 10 obscure items in our collection that we don't think anyone else in the VC will have. So yeah, it's been some really interesting videos on this, so I thought I'd jump on it as a thread. So yeah, and yes, take some kind of thinking about. So the way I've ended up finding these 10 things is I've sorted my Discogs by value and went to either end of it. So there are some things that I've had in my collection for years that I've never sold, and so I looked in a few of them to see how many other people had them in their collections, and I did the same at the other end of the high end of my collection, and I kind of done a bit of a mix and match of that. So I've tried, and I'm going to show these in order of sort of descending order of numbers of other people who've got them. And so my hope is that if, with so few people having them, someone else in the VC is unlikely to show them. So that's my logic that I've applied to this. So some of these I've shown before, some of these I might not even be keeping. Sort of the way they've come about, some of them are sort of, I follow a lot of very small labels, and they're kind of quite niche, and these are quite kind of limited items that I've managed to get purchased through the labels. Others are just random finds at car boot sales in boxes, or boxes of records that I picked up that I've come across by chance. Yeah, and just some are, yeah, in fact that's what most of them are actually, either random boxes that I've bought or car boot sale stuff that I just grabbed a pile of stuff, and there's been something a little bit obscure in it. So let's get on with it. So first up, some of these are, yeah, a few of these I've shown before. So first up is this album, Countryside Calling, Sounds of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, recorded by Yolanda Kemp Robinson. So this is sort of well, it's on Sadisc. Sadisc did a number of sort of educational type historical recordings over sort of a number of years, 15-20 years. This is a lot of field recordings mixed with people reciting poetry, doing some folk tunes, either a cappella or with sort of a guitar. So it's a historical timepiece. It's got it's got church bells and bird song and lapping water from in and around Hampshire, say interspersed with these tunes. So this is kind of so an interesting timepiece and something that's really great to have in the collection. And there are 16, including me, there are 16 of these listed on Discogs, so that's the sort of highest of this. Coming up next with 14 is this 5-inch lathe cut single in a metal tin by the Honey Pot and Icarus Peel. Kind of one in the same thing really, and this was put out on the Fruit de Mer label. So two self-penned, not cover versions, one Shining Diamonds and the other Half Space. So there are in total 14 of these listed on Discogs. So that is the second choice. Then this is kind of psych rock, pop psych. Next up with 13 is this I got from a car boot sale. This is a New Zealand sort of private press, small label press on the what label? I'm just going to get it out. The Braille label. This is Braille number 7 by Rabbit Lock. This is jazz, New Zealand jazz. I've got 2 or 3 albums on the Braille label, so fairly obscure, and released around, I think there's a Dunedin, but yeah, quite an interesting jazz, sort of avant-garde jazz album. And there was 13 of those listed on Discogs. Next up with 11 is a 7-inch single that I've got at a car boot sale. So this is a promo by the West Coast Consortium of Colour Sergeant Lillywhite, backed with Lady from Baltimore. So this is 1968 UK pop psych, very pop psych, quite an interesting, enjoyable song. So, and that has, as I said, 11 others. What am I doing with this now? Oh, okay. Next up with is let's do another single. This is another Fruit de Mer lathe cut limited. There are only 58 of these put out, and I don't know what's happened to the rest of them because only 8 of them are listed on Discogs, but allegedly 58 were released. So this is sort of jangle neo-psych indie by a band Moloko Plus, and Can't Wait Till Sunday and Never Know What You Got. Fantastic, say, kind of indie jangle songs, both, and particularly the title track. So put out on the Fruit de Mer label. So that's that. Next up with 7 is another single. This I picked up and I bought a sort of a batch of records off somebody, and he had some number of albums and singles. This was in the singles, and kind of never heard of it. And he said, yeah, he only had it because it was one of his friends was in the band, and I think that maybe he got given it, so it was in this batch of records. So it's Watch That Man is the artist, called Watch That Man, 1987, and side 1 the song is The Dream, side 2 Egyptian Lands. Sounds a bit like a mashup, but sort of 1987 of kind of U2, Simple Minds, in that kind of sort of earlier, maybe getting into their rock phase. The interesting thing about it, or I think quite interesting thing about it, is it's on a label there called Stiffy, so stiff with an E on Stiffy, and from what I can see that's the only, so this must have been a made up private press type thing, but interesting that, you know, the kind of jumping on the Stiff records with a Stiffy records. There's a label there, so that's that. And there, as I said, there are only 7 of those listed. Next up, coming in with only 6. I've shown this before. Picked this up when I went to look at a collection where someone said they had a load of jazz records. Unfortunately, they were not my kind of jazz, but I picked up a handful of things, and luckily picked up this 10-inch Jimmy Duca 10-inch featuring Don Rendell on tenor sax within it. So this is a late 50s jazz 10-inch, and yeah. So, and there are only 6 of those. Well, this is a reissue, but on the Vogue, Disc Vogue label. But yeah, only 6 of these listed. What's next? So we're now getting to the lower numbers. So we'll do a. We've got a 3. So next up is this. I showed this. This is again within a batch of records I got last year. I had a number of Zimbabwe, African records in it, and this one, Chikonzi Messenger by Oliver Tuku. He's called Oliver Tukutsi, or Tuku as he's called. East Coast Zimbabwe. Very nice African music, and there are only, as I said, 3 of these listed, or in people's collections on Discogs. Okay, final 2. Which order should we do it in? We'll do it this. So the Car Boot Sale batch of records that I got earlier this year. There was some library music in there. A couple of these on the Mood Music Library. This is Mixed Emotions, Again, this is one that I probably won't be keeping, but I've got it for now because it's not funky jazzy library music. This is classical pieces for probably, you know, TV programs and radio programs, so not quite my thing in terms of that type of library music, but only 2 of these in collections on Discogs. And also finally, also only 2 is another sort of promo single. This is Tim Andrews and Sad Simon Lives Again. This is a single-sided promo from 1967. It's sort of Baroque, folky pop psych, definitely Baroque and folky pop psych, and yeah, and it has got grooves on the other side, but when you play it, it's just a high-pitched sort of reference tone all the way through. But yeah, interesting. It's got a 2 and 6 label, even though it's a promo on it. And there again are only 2 of those in collections on Discogs. So that's the way I've approached this, sort of 10 things that potentially people in the VC haven't got, and all kind of relatively interesting, hopefully. Okay, so good luck with the contest, and be back with another video soon. Cheers, VC, bye.